PC on the economic transformation program, Najib needs to explain how government-linked companies will come up with about 454 billion ringgit over the next 7-8 years. Over the next 7-8 years, to fund the projects identified within the economic transformation program. I think the government has already announced the ETP. It is worth 1.4 trillion ringgit. The government has announced that 60% of this will come from the private sector, private as in private. 32% will come from the GLCs and 8% from government. So GLCs is a private government sort of organization. Now to identify if these projects are realistic, can it happen within an 8-9 years, we need to figure out whether these GLCs can invest the amount that is required. Now 32% of 1.4 trillion is approximately 454 billion ringgit. 454 billion ringgit. Now is this amount realistic? Now what I did was essentially I pull out the top GLCs. Essentially these are the main GLCs in these countries expected to carry the main task to invest in these projects. The tables are all in the second page. These are the companies. I took out the banks because the banks are not expected to invest, they are expected to lend money to these GLCs. I added in the Petronas set of GLCs. So these are the GLCs listed in the government website. They are the key GLCs in this country, the G20s, so to speak. Now if you look at the numbers, the total market capitalization of these companies, okay, they are listed on the stock exchange. Market capitalization of these companies is 266 billion ringgit. 266 billion ringgit. This means that they are expected to invest nearly double their market capitalization on the stock exchange over the next 8 to 9 years. Now this is a huge amount. And if you look at the total, the total debt that these companies have, cash that these companies have, they are all in debt. And their total debt is about 38.6 billion ringgit. Okay, all these 17 companies added together, the total debt is 38.6 billion ringgit. So they are expected, and the shareholders' funds is 140 billion ringgit. So it is very far off from the 454 billion ringgit that is required. So the only way they can invest 454 billion ringgit over the next 8 to 9 years is either by borrowing hundreds of billions of ringgit in the next few years, or the shareholders, of which the government is a majority, has to stump up with the hundreds of billions of ringgit for them to invest. So to me, based on these numbers alone, the projects that has been identified by the ETP for GLCs to invest is completely unrealistic. It is a pie in the sky. How are the GLCs expected to invest in all these projects worth 454 billion ringgit? These are the investments that the government has been expecting the GLCs to invest. Now any equity or financial analyst will tell you that it will be crazy to expect GLCs to raise additional hundreds of billions of ringgit in debt to fund the 454 billion worth of ETP projects allocated for GLCs. Or it will be similarly mad for the GLCs to be seeking to quadruple their shareholders' funds by raising more money from shareholders during this period, especially since the government itself will have to bear the brunt of the fundraising exercise. The above also doesn't take into account the fact that many of these companies are facing their own set of financial problems. We know that Dabi is having problems with its energy sector, above billions in terms of losses. Tenaga always faces cash flow problems, that's why always need to increase tariffs. Mars and Protons are still struggling with their own turnaround story. Hence it appears that while the ETP has identified plenty of projects which looks extremely pretty on paper, they are but pies in the sky. The Prime Minister and Pemandu has failed to explain how our GLCs are expected to invest a whopping 454 billion ringgit over that period of time. Malaysians are excited by what ETP projects hope to achieve, and we all want the country to achieve a high-income nation status. We will, however, not achieve these goals if these figures are just plucked from the sky. To ensure and protect the credibility of the government's plans, the Prime Minister must explain during his speech for Budget 2011 this coming Friday on how exactly are we going to fund and find the 454 billion for our GLCs to invest in the ETP projects, as well as the balance of the 850 billion expected from the private sector.